to the classroom, the workplace, and the transportation required to get there. Equal opportunity to live full and independent lives the way we choose. Not dependence, but independence. That's what the ADA was all about. But while it was a historic milestone in the journey to equality, it wasn't the end. There was and is more to do.
Until every American with a disability can learn in their local public school in the manner best for them, until they can apply for a job without fear of discrimination and live and work independently in their communities, if that's what they choose, we've got more work to do. As long as we, as a people, still too easily succumb to casual discrimination or fear of the unfamiliar, we've got work to do. End quote. President Barack Obama, July 26, 2010. When injured in a car accident, what happens to those individuals who become disabled? Is there affordable medical care? What about your job? Is there legislation in place to help? Where does the Obama administration stand on these issues? Let's explore this today. Welcome, and thank you for joining Talking About You with Estra, live on Blog Talk Radio, this February 16, 2013. This is your car accident talk radio show, sharing information and concerns that help you. Hi, I'm Estra, your host. Thank you for joining in today to talk about President Obama's record on disability. With so many different versions of what has or has not been done by this administration, it's important to see what has been signed by the president into law, in addition to other actions which may have an impact on the lives of those living with a disability, especially those injured in a car accident. Barack H. Obama is the 44th President of the United States. The White House website describes him as, quote, the American story, values from the heartland, a middle-class upbringing in a strong family, hard-working and education as the means of getting ahead, and the conviction that a life so blessed should be lived in service to others, end quote. As always, the views and opinions expressed are my own and have no association with the Obama administration or the writers of any articles presented today. This review comes from an injured and disabled person's perspective, which may differ from others who see it from a financial, policy, political, or additional point of views. So let's begin with a few quotes from Breaking Down Barriers to Healthcare for Women with Disabilities. It's a white paper from the National Summit dated December 2004, Washington, D.C. by the Department of Health and Human Services. Although these quotes concentrate on women, I suspect disabled men encounter similar circumstances. However, typically having a higher income and socioeconomic class may somewhat lessen the impact. Quote, women with disabilities face substantial barriers that limit their access to healthcare services, including physical, attitudinal, and policy barriers, lack of information about how disability affects health, limited finances, and insufficient personal assistance. End quote. And this is from Joanne Theory, PhD, MSW, Center for Disease and Control Prevention. Quote, women with disabilities are among the most economically disadvantaged, and this increases their risk of health problems. As a group, they have lower socioeconomic status, less education, and are less likely to be married. And this comes from Margaret A. Turk, MD, SUNY Upstate Medical University. Quote, people with disabilities use healthcare services at a higher rate than people without disabilities, yet common express dissatisfaction with their healthcare. They are susceptible to disparities in healthcare and experience widespread lack of appropriate accommodations. And this comes from Judith Pankow Reese, MA, MS, Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. Quote, women of color with disabilities use fewer health care services and continue to suffer more from premature death, disease, and secondary disabilities. And this comes from Sharon Wood Dennis, and it's with Rose Incorporated. President Obama has improved access to high-quality health care. He's been protecting Americans with pre-existing conditions, providing affordable coverage for Americans who have been uninsured and have pre-existing conditions. He implemented a new Patients' Bill of Rights, ensuring commitment to community-based services, continued to support persons on the autism spectrum, opposed the line against cuts to Medicare, supports individuals and families affected by Alzheimer's disease, prevents hearing loss. He's got a program for that, reauthorizing Early Hearing Detection and Intervention Act. He helps those living with paralysis. He's allowing critical research to continue. He's strengthening Medicare. He's expanding access to work and educational opportunities. He's making a federal government a model employer. I don't know if I talked about that much, of actually being an employer who actually hires more people who have disabilities. They, in fact, looking at it more from a strength than a weakness and comparing it as a full package, in my opinion, versus just looking and saying this person's disabled. They look at it and say, this is a person, this is their skill set, and this is how this person can fit into our organization as an employer. Improving employment in the private sector, in my opinion, that has a long way to go for a lot of different reasons, but I'm going to go on, or I'm not going to get stuck on there. It says ensuring children with disabilities receive high quality early education. And if we really want there to be a fair playing field, I have to add this one thing. If we really want it to be a fair playing field in America, that's one of the things that's going to have to be addressed. Addressing bullying, it says the Department of Education introduced guidelines for that. I personally believe that that needs to be extended. The bullying, harassment, and intimidation should be expanded to include employers and insurance companies, and particularly for those who are disabled. I think it would make a great difference in the lives of the injured. So much suffering has gone on through that process that I hope that one day I'll have a lot of time to go into the depths and the suffering that's entailed. But I'm going to go on. Ensuring equal access to technology for the disabled. Ensuring that everyone can fully access the government. Making it easier for Americans with disabilities to get protection under the Americans with Disability Act. Providing inclusion and representation in the federal government. Updating building standards for state and government facilities. Supporting community living. So, from my perspective, the president has actually been very involved in making the lives of people who are disabled better. Thank you for listening to today's broadcast. Next time you are pondering what has this president done for you lately, think back on today's list. Recognize he needs your support, your families, your friends, community, or nation, our world to stand up against those actions that for generations has limited the capacities of those injured or disabled. I hope ERISA reform will be added to this list because, in my opinion, this legislation harms car accident victims more than anything. Please support the new legislation, the H.R. 4532, the Social Security Disability Applicants' Access to Professional Representation. So, also take advantage of the new online Social Security Administration's website. Thank you for listening. We appreciate all that have listened in on the show today, and we hope to see you back next week. I'd also want to extend a special thank you to internetarchives.org, Fabian Claudel, Forrest M. Santana, Frank Mills, Al Hurt, James Edwards, Cora Kea, Marcus Miller, David Reeves, and all the artists that participated in today's show, along with the articles that made our time much more interesting at the website. Please tune in again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're coming to you from Talking About You with Estra on Blog Talk Radio. Come talk, come listen, where you can just be yourself. Have a great weekend. It's really all up to you. And, Mr. President, happy President's Day.